They say gifted children are destined to shine, yet many grow into adults who feel dimmed, unremarkable, or invisible. Childhood brilliance doesn't guarantee ease, nor does recognition shield against quiet despair. Somewhere between extraordinary potential and the reality of life, something subtle shifts, a silent erosion of confidence, purpose, and self-worth. What happens when the mind that once soared feels trapped in mediocrity? When the applause fades and the world forgets the child you were? Let's explore the hidden psychology of those who were once gifted. Let's begin. As a child, the world can feel like a stage, and you, the one the spotlight was always meant to follow. Teachers whisper your name with admiration, peers glance with quiet envy, and your parents' eyes hold a reflection of something extraordinary. The world tells you, in subtle and unrelenting ways, that you are different, special, and for a time, you believe it. But brilliance is a fragile companion. It is a glow easily dimmed when admiration becomes expectation, and curiosity transforms into performance. The praise you receive can shape the contours of yourself, tying identity to achievement, forging a quiet contract. I am only worthy when I excel. The laughter of childhood hides the echoing shadow of perfectionism forming beneath the surface. There is beauty in recognition, and yet beneath it, a silent question often takes root. What happens when the applause fades? What happens when challenges arrive that your brilliance cannot easily untangle? When the world stops mirroring your shine, the child you once were begins to feel small, lost in the distance between what was expected and what is possible. The luster of early brilliance is not just light, it is also shadow. It teaches wonder and fuels curiosity, but it can quietly build chains of self-expectation that bind far into adulthood. Before understanding these chains, one must first remember the glow and the subtle ache that lingered beneath it. They say gifted children are naturally capable, as if their brilliance alone carries them through life. Yet beneath the surface of achievement lies a subtle, persistent tension. Pressure begins not in the classroom alone, but at the kitchen table, in the hushed hopes of parents, in the quiet comparisons with siblings or peers. You must be the best, the world seems to whisper. And slowly, the child learns to internalize these whispers, turning them into self-imposed rules. Perfection is not an option. It is survival. Society feeds the illusion that intelligence is a limitless well, that talent is a permanent shield against struggle. But reality is different. Talent does not immunize one from disappointment, nor does early success guarantee ease. The gifted mind, sensitive and acutely aware, absorbs both praise and expectation with equal intensity. Every mistake feels magnified. Every misstep becomes a subtle crack in a foundation built on performance. In adulthood, these seeds of pressure manifest quietly as anxiety, self-doubt, and a relentless drive to prove worth. A river forced into narrow channels can never flow freely. It erodes the banks even as it moves forward. Similarly, the child who once thrived on achievement may grow into an adult who fears stagnation, failure, or mediocrity, not because of lack of ability, but because the weight of expectation has become indistinguishable from the self. The roots of quiet pressure are invisible, yet they shape every thought, every choice, every measure of self-worth. Understanding them is the first step in seeing the mind as both fragile and extraordinary. Giftedness is often imagined as a straightforward path, fast, effortless, brilliant. But beneath this illusion lies a labyrinth of thought, emotion, and perception. The mind of a gifted child is a forest of connections, where ideas grow like vines, intertwining, sometimes overwhelming the clarity of simple paths. Thinking intensely is a gift, yes, but it is also a burden that can turn inward, magnifying doubts and fears. The gifted mind often develops unevenly. Cognitive abilities may outpace emotional maturity, creating a subtle dissonance. You understand the world intellectually, yet feel unprepared to navigate it emotionally. Sensitivity heightens every interaction. Curiosity sparks wonder, but also anxiety. The mind races with possibilities, options, and what ifs, yet rarely finds rest. Like a volcano under a calm surface, energy simmers unseen, erupting in moments of overwhelm, self-criticism, or exhaustion. Public perception often misses this inner complexity. Outsiders see talent, achievement, and ease, assuming that success flows naturally. But the inner life of a gifted child, later an adult, can be lonely, marked by overthinking, self-questioning, and the quiet ache of misalignment between potential and reality. Understanding this labyrinth is not about labeling difficulty. It is about acknowledging the depth, intensity, and uniqueness of thought. The very traits that once made a child exceptional can become sources of isolation if unrecognized. To see the mind in its complexity is to honor both its brilliance and its vulnerability.
As adulthood arrives, the once celebrated brilliance often meets a quiet, unsettling truth. The world no longer mirrors your shine. Achievements that once brought recognition may now feel hollow. Goals once fueled by curiosity can feel like chains. The child who soared now stumbles in the ordinary currents of life, unsure of where to anchor. This is the era of inner conflict, a tension between the potential you once embodied and the reality you now inhabit. It is the dormant fire that refuses to ignite, the empty well that once brimmed with promise. Imposter feelings emerge, whispering that you are not enough, that your talents were illusions, or that life has moved on without you. Even love, creativity, and purpose can feel like distant landscapes, inaccessible despite all your effort. The struggle is subtle, often invisible to others. Society expects adults to settle, to grow up and embrace routine. But for those who once lived in extraordinary minds, ordinary life can feel like erosion of the self. Every day brings small reminders of what was and what feels lost. Yet conflict is not failure. It is a sign of depth, a testimony to a mind that once reached high and remembers how to. Recognizing this tension is the first step toward understanding that the compass of your youth, while misaligned, is not broken. It has merely shifted, waiting for you to see its bearings anew.
There is a quiet possibility in the journey of a former gifted child, the chance to see brilliance not as a burden, but as a layer of self, one among many. To reclaim the self is not to chase past glory or recapture childhood shine. It is to acknowledge the intricate mind you carry with its sensitivity, curiosity, and depth, and to let it exist without constant judgment. Awareness begins with noticing the narratives that shaped you, the voice that once demanded perfection, the gaze that measured worth in achievement, the silent comparisons with others. All of it can be observed, named, and held gently. Like sediment settling in a river, understanding these layers reveals the contours of the mind, the patterns of thought and emotion that have guided life thus far. Healing is less about changing what was and more about integrating it. It is learning that potential is not a permanent measure of value, that growth can take forms quieter than brilliance, and that fulfillment does not require constant exceptionalism. There is liberation in seeing life as a landscape of varied experiences, where curiosity, empathy, and self-compassion shine as brightly as intellect ever did. The journey from gifted child to adult is not a fall, it is a transformation. The glow of early brilliance need not vanish, it can coexist with acceptance, resilience, and quiet contentment.
To reclaim the self is to walk through the labyrinth of the mind with understanding, gentleness, and ultimately, freedom. If parts of this reflection felt familiar, know that you are not alone. The quiet ache of unrealized potential, the tension between who you were and who you are now, touches many who grew up under the weight of brilliance. It does not make you flawed, it makes you human. If you'd like to stay connected, this space is a place where we explore the hidden corners of the human heart, the subtle truths often left unspoken. Sharing your thoughts is optional, but your words may help someone else feel less invisible, less alone. Take care of yourself. You deserve gentleness. You deserve to heal.